I work as a deputy director in the prison of Marche-en-Famenne in Belgium. It's a pretty new prison built on the public-private partnership in 2013. I started my career as a prison officer, but it was a long time ago. It was 25 years ago, and then I've achieved a master in criminology, and now a doctoral thesis in criminology that I will present in June in the University of Liège. And I've worked on the new public management in the Belgian prison. So I'm here to present a project. We started in 2021 in Marche-en-Famenne, a project of telemedicine, because our prison is located in the middle of nowhere. As I told to Rhiannon, the prison is between a forest and another forest. So the nearest hospital 10 kilometers away. It's not so far away, but it's a bit difficult to send inmates there because we depend on the police, and they don't have enough staff to bring our inmates to the hospital daily. Just to explain the problem, we have 350 inmates at the moment in our prison, and daily we have between 6 and 8 travels to the hospital, for not only for emergencies. So emergencies, you must send them to the hospital. It's impossible to do something else. But for the daily medical care, we can work in another way, and we decided to try a system with kind of Google lenses and medical tools, connected medical tools that send the information to the hospital by a VPN link. We tried it 2 years ago. It works. It's really interesting because the inmate stays in the prison, and medical staff, the internal medical staff of the prison, the nurse, can examine the inmate, and with the connected tools, and all the informations are sent to the doctor at the hospital that can take decisions for the care we must make after that. So at the moment, the project is still on standby because it was a test phase. I had a contact yesterday evening with the big boss of the medical service of the Belgian prison service, and he told me that on Friday they have a meeting, and they will try to decide to do the kickoff of the project at a larger scale in maybe 10 or 12 prisons. The main problem is, as usual, the financial problem, the budget. It has a large cost because the tools, I have some photos to share. It's not so much tools, but it costs approximately 8,000 euros for a small prison like us. I really have a problem. I don't have the photos, but I will try to send it after the presentation. But if we think a little bit further, this cost, one-shot cost, and after that, you don't have to bring the inmates to the hospital, to the doctor, maybe sometimes 20 or 30, 50 kilometers away, because the hospital here in Marche-en-Famenne is a really small hospital. So they don't do everything. So sometimes we must send inmates to Brussels or to Liège, the biggest country, the biggest city or the country nearby Marche. But it's difficult because, as I said, you must ask to the police to be there to bring the inmate to the hospital. But we must send also prison officers to stay with the inmate at the hospital, sometimes for 1 hour or 2 hours. It's not always to stay there. So this system, has a real value for us. So I try, and my colleagues also try to have this system in every prison in Belgium. And I hope that the new Director General, who's not here today, but you know, Kathleen van der Wever could do something for us, because yeah, she's really motivated by this project, and I hope we can do something great. So if you have any question at the moment, I can answer it.
Yeah, I do have a question. So, and my question is, you have done a pilot, right? So you have tested the solution.
Yeah.
And what was the reaction of both of the inmates and of the different stakeholders? I would say the inmates, the staff, and also the doctors. Because sometimes I remember, the former times of trying to implement these kind of projects on the e-health, let's call it that way. There were, despite the advantages that we all see from the prison service perspective, there were reactions against it by families or inmates representative organizations, because they would say, well, an inmate has the right to have an access to a doctor face to face, and should not be, having to be with a doctor virtually. And also some doctors at the time, they were a bit more resistant. Of course, probably it was a different generation of doctors as well. This matters. But I would like to understand from your perspective, from the different stakeholders, how do they see, the project from their perspective?
The biggest opposition came from the inmates, because they think the medical care would not be good enough without seeing the doctor face to face. They're a bit afraid, because they say, you see me through lenses, but you don't touch me, so you don't know if there is something inside my body who's not going well. So it was a bit difficult for them at first. But the COVID pandemic had a positive effect on this, because most of the people began to have medical consultations by phone, by Teams, and so on. So it's a new culture. They can progressively accept it, but it's still a bit difficult, and it's difficult with the lawyers because they explain to their clients, no, it's not okay. You must go to the hospital. You must see a real doctor. At the prison, it's only nurse that see you and that send the information by lenses, by a microphone. It's not enough, but it was not a majority of them. So during the test phase, during the pilot project, most of the inmates okay with that, because we have big difficulties to bring medical doctors to the prison. And so they said, it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. It's better to see a virtual doctor than no doctor. So for them, it's okay for the majority of them. And for the prison officers and the trade unions, it's a really great solution. They support the project, because we don't have enough staff. It's the same problem in every prison in Belgium, and I think in many countries. We have a lack of staff because of injuries, because of illness, and so on. So at the moment, in March, we must have 45 officers to run the prison during the morning and 45 during the evening. And if we have 30, we are really happy. And the medical extractions to the hospitals is a big problem, because if you don't have enough staff, and if you send 2 people to the hospital with 1 inmate, it increases the problems here in the prison. So they give a real support to the project, and I hope it will help us to get the money to implement the project in a long period of time, because we don't have the tools anymore now, because it was a partnership with the local hospital. So they bought the tools and they shared it with us during the pilot phase. But now, they have we gave back the tools to them, because we cannot use it. It's not our tools, and we would like to buy such tools for all the prisons.
And I remember the pilot phase. Was it funded by the local authorities?
Yeah, local authorities who run the hospitals here in the Belgium is a bit complicated as a country, because we have many authorities: local authorities, national authorities, southern authorities, northern authorities, Brussels authorities, and they have they all work on special parts of the functions, and the local authorities is the owner of the hospital, so they were our principal partner for the project.
So presumably you got to collect data as you go through, not just for the prison service, but also for the hospitals about the success of the tool.
Yeah, they were happy with the way we use this system, because for them too, it's easier to work virtually than to have many people in the hospital, and they don't like to have inmates in the hospital. They really don't like it. They are afraid of inmates. It's a real problem. Some doctors don't want to see inmates, and we must say, yeah, but you must see them. You're a doctor. They are humans. They are not inmates. They are humans. And it's always a debate with them. And with this system, there's no problem.
Well, that's very interesting to get that perspective as well, to be honest. So once you get the funding, does that mean you roll out just in Marche-en-Famenne, or do you also, can you take it to other prisons in the region?
We hope so. We hope we can bring the system to all the prisons in Belgium. Patrick Franson told last year that it was the final project was to have this system in every prison. But at first, we'll try to run it again in Marche-en-Famenne, and maybe in 2 or 3 other prisons in the south, 3 or 4 prisons in the north, and then we can go gradually to the other prisons. But at first, if we have 4 or 5 prisons in Belgium which have the system, it would be a victory for us.
Excellent stuff.
If the biggest prisons have this, we can solve the major parts of the problem.
I can already see that. Well, good luck on your journey ahead. Any questions from you, Tamara?
And the other problem in Belgium is that we don't have many hospitals inside the prisons. We have 3 hospitals, 3 penitentiary hospitals for the whole country, but for 37 prisons, it's not enough. For the south part of Belgium, this hospital is in Liège, in the prison of Lantin, the biggest prison before Haren, and they only have 32 places for inmates for the whole prisons of the south of the country. So no, it's not enough. So this system is really, really interesting.
I wanted to ask, thank you for explaining all of that. I wanted to ask about women's health. Did you consider the issues that women might disproportionately, women who are incarcerated might disproportionately affect, such as obviously a smaller population, so more greatly dispersed, etc.?
I don't think there's difference here in Belgium between men and women for the health. Some external partners come to the prisons to see them, to do some prevention programs, and so on. So we try to do our best, but a few years ago, they were a bit forgotten. But at the moment, no, I don't think so.
Thank you.
And we have women here in Marche-en-Famenne. Only 20 women, but they have medical care, the same medical care as the men.
Great. Thanks a lot, Yves, for presenting all of
Welcome.
that. Pedro, do you want to do your presentation, or would you like to press pause and do it at a different time?
No, I can do it. Finally, everything seems to be working, but it was really, I was really experiencing some technical challenges, but now it's going well, which is funny when we're talking about digital. And my name is Pedro das Neves, and I work as a CEO of IPS, Innovative Prison Systems, which is a research and consulting organization. We advise governments, and mainly governments and multilateral organizations, on correctional reform. And one of the areas that we work among other areas is the area of digital transformation in corrections. We have different projects that deal with digital, let's call it digital transition. For most of the jurisdictions, it's still digital transition, not really there are different initiatives that we work with, but today I will be focusing on the ORUS offender 360 offender management system, which is an offender management system that I will just show you. I will just share very briefly in presentation, then I will jump into it, and then I'll bring some issues for discussion as well. So HORUS is a research and development based digital solution that supports the management of all activities and information generated during the detention life cycle. So we may be talking about imprisonment or surveillance of persons that are subject to custodial, but also non-custodial judicial measures. So we may be talking about also people monitoring people in the community. And what we do is that we support certain decisions and the rehabilitation process through artificial intelligence and predictive analysis technology. So I will show a little bit more about it, what it covers. So basically, we look from intake until release, or from the beginning of someone starting to serve a judicial sentence, being in prison or in the community. I will focus more on the prison side now. The solution covers the different steps of it. We do that by taking what we call a human-centric approach, where we focus on assessing the offender's risks and needs. Risks. I will call it risks in general, because we may be talking about violence risk, in order to through the classification process, so that we can allocate the individual to the proper security regime, but also risk of recidivism and needs and responsiveness. So we use different tools to assess that, and those are incorporated into our solution. Then we identify the most suitable programs for these individuals to participate in throughout their sentence. So we allocate the person to the most suitable facility and programs or activities, and schedule those programs and activities. And and the system learns from the results that it gets as well. So we have the system uses a recidivism prediction model that constantly analyzes the data of individuals that come back to prison, but also what happened to them before going out, and what they have participated in, and so on. So we use different instruments for that are incorporated in the solution, and the system covers the full life cycle of an individual throughout the sentence, from the moment he gets into the prison until he's released. And throughout this, we use also AI to support some functions, like allocating the individual to the best institution that serves his response to his profile, case allocation, program recommendation. So all the programming, again, is what we do is we match the needs of an individual with the programs that are available, and then we support also the prediction side and release recommendations, so to support decisions. I mean, to show it to you a bit more, I think it makes it easier. So the interface, it's quite easy, and then I will jump to the some discussion topics. So the solution covers different areas, like information about the inmate, about the intake process, where we can do a pre-booking, or we can do the booking of the inmate, where we support and collect all the information about an individual. We can also create other individuals that need to enter a prison. This could be lawyers, volunteers, doctors, teachers, visitors will come in a different module. Housing at bed allows us to allocate the individual to the best prison, or to the prison that matches his profile. Sentence and time will show us all the information about the legal case of an individual, but also the sentence calculator. And I will just very briefly show it to you. Classification So the security side, classification, movements, all the activity of an inmate inside prisons, access control, dynamic security recordings, incidents and events, searches and seizures, distribution of meals and events associated with it. And then rehabilitation and care, where we have risk and needs assessments, risk assessment results. We have the full case management files, all the sentence and planning activity and scheduling, visitation and visitors, where we can record and approve and track all the information about visitors, belongings of the inmate, grievances and requests, disciplinary procedures, some information about intelligence and how to deal with criminal groups, and monitoring of different people, profile of criminal groups, monitoring of inmates, staff and other persons, evaluation of security threats, trusting accounting, and so on and so on. So it's quite comprehensive. So, but let's just take the example of an individual to look at it and see what kind of information it could show. I'm not adding an inmate out. So I'll just take this individual, which is quite well known. His name is Pablo Escobar, and we keep track of most of the information about his profile in here. But we can also see information about his sentence, for instance, about individual sentences. We know that he's serving a sentence, and we have all the data regarding the sentence case, including the sentence length, the number of years, number of months, number of days that is serving a sentence, all legal documentation related to it. But then we also have information about sentence calculation, for instance, because we want to know you may serve different sentences, and we want to know, in this case, he just served 1% of his sentence. He has a very long one. But we will know what's the total sentence time, the current sentence. You may have cumulative sentences or consecutive sentences or different types of sentences to serve. You may have credits or disciplinary days that are either reducing or adding days to his sentence. So we have all the information here about that. And on case management, we will know as well all the data regarding the individual in terms of management of his case. So we'll have information about different assessments, about number of visitors he may have, phone calls, video calls, correspondence, victimization issues, all the assessments that he has done through time in prison, suicide, and suicide risk, use of addictions and results of tests, you name it. It's a very comprehensive solution to manage an organization. So we have all the dynamic security issues where we will be collecting observations of suspicious behavior. This is done by the officers about a certain individual so that it can be analyzed by intelligence field officers, for instance. So the main issue is what happens when we, and I think this is very much the topic of our conversation, is what happens when we try to deploy such a solution, right? So it's a very comprehensive solution. It will replace solutions that are out there for 20 years, where typically the type of data that is collected is different from the one that we have here. So people are not used to collect so much information, so much data. And so this brings as well some challenges to its implementation. One of them, I would say, is that people really need to understand why they are collecting this data and why is it relevant. So they need to have an overall perspective of the system and how the different modules that I just showed here all together provide data that is crucial to manage the journey of an individual while serving a sentence, and really enforcing both the security and enhancing the rehabilitation process further on. So people need to have a big picture of the system and not just the small part that they in which they have involvement, because as you may imagine, not everyone has access to all these modules and to all the information that exists inside these modules. Give you an example about health, for instance. Not everybody has access to what happens, in medical consultations and what information is recorded there. So that's basically for doctors to look at, or about case management, or even, of course, about disciplinary management, or even monitoring of individuals. So this information is only for restricted users that will be able to see it as well. So what happens is that people, first of all, they need to understand the big picture, so that they understand that the small piece of data that they are collecting, it's part of a much bigger picture, and that they let me just pick this individual, and that these small parts of observations, for instance, that they are collecting, these are very relevant to be analyzed by somebody else. And that small observations, for instance, regarding the dynamic security module that they collect individually, they may not mean anything, but when put together with other informations, they may be very relevant. So this is an important aspect. People need to understand the big picture of it. Secondly, is we need to provide them with the tools to be able to collect the different data. So it doesn't make sense to provide them with digital tools if we don't provide them with the necessary devices that allow them to collect data. So, for instance, the use of mobile devices is a key aspect. Or if we provide them with such a system, and then they don't have a computer on the floor, on the landing, where they can just record all the information that is required. So the use of devices, being mobile devices or other type of other type of devices, is a key issue for data collection. And this is definitely very relevant. Otherwise, we will see people still taking notes on notebooks, and then coming back to an office and recording the information or the data that they've collected. And by the time they get there, what will happen is that we have lost already part of the relevant data that we really want them to collect. So the other aspect is, of course, they need to understand why they are doing all of this. So really, why are we collecting this data? The other thing is about using structured data and not just open fields. We see very often that in many of these tools, we have fields that are completely open for people to just write whatever they want. And then we have problems with the quality of the data that we keep in our databases. So in these cases, what we do is that we use structured data to using lists that people officers can just select, or professionals can just select from it. And if they want to add some other notes, of course they can add some notes, but we provide them with the possibility to just use data that is already structured in the system through different lists. And that eases, of course, the data collection, because people don't have to be, being very creative all the time and writing down things that they do on their daily basis. And on the other hand, we'll just get the information that is requested properly recorded. This is just an example of let's say grievance, where we can just identify the category instead of having someone just saying, well, we always give space and allow space for an open fields as well, but we can have already the data structured in a way that in this case I'm just recording a grievance, and I can say, well, my grievance is about let's say it's about my personal safety, and I feel threatened by members of staff. So by doing that, yes, even though I need to record everything, what happens is that I'm already not only providing structured data about what my grievance is about, so that it's already classified, but I'm already defining who should be reading this information. Of course, if it's physical harm or a threat by staff, it cannot be a member of staff analyzing the grievance or looking at it or receiving it. So this needs to go higher in the organization. So what we're doing is, by doing this, we are already sending it to a higher level of someone that can really analyze and take action on it. So the use of data. So I mentioned the devices, so the accessibility to devices. I mentioned the understanding of what the information is for. I mentioned the use of structured data. That is really very, very relevant, especially nowadays if we want to use if we want to use more advanced tools or recurring to artificial intelligence tools. This becomes even more important. Also another aspect is of course, the training that is required and that we need to provide to people so that they are able to use the different tools. And also something which is very critical as well is the change management and the adaptation to the different changes that we need to take into account. It may be that some of these processes were not digitized before, and we need to give some time also for the people to learn and to start using. So we need to monitor the process from the start that we start implementing, to see if people are really using the system and if they are collecting all the data that is required, if they need to learn more about it, if they need more training to implement it, and also allow space for feedback so that people can provide feedback about the solution and about the different solutions and about how they see that some things could be improved, for instance. I think that's, in a nutshell. I just would like to give you like an overview of this, and we could have some time for questions and for interaction right now.
Thanks a lot, Pedro. Gosh, that was a lot to take in, I must say. And so just going back to where you say the training, how crucial the training is, I presume you've already engaged quite a lot of stakeholders. So a similar question to what you asked, Eve, basically. How has it been when you approach the various stakeholders groups, like trade unions, like people outside the direct staff group?
So I must say that we have an advantage, because when we started the development of the solution, we engaged already different stakeholder groups into the development, and I have some perspectives as well from them. The reaction was very positive, but also with some concerns. So very positive in the sense that they see these kind of tools as very, people are fed up of using paper, right? So it's you use your mobile phone all day, right? Not all day, but a lot of time, and you do it for everything, for your banking operations, for interacting with government, and so on. And then you go to a prison, and very often you have an officer with a logbook, and he's taking, if you enter by car, he's taking your license plate and recording it on paper. And I see that very often. So people see the advantages of digitization of these processes, okay, because they don't understand, in fact, why are we still doing things the way we used to do it 30 years ago, right? And so they see the advantage. The other thing that they think is that due to, if you bring a computer or a tablet or even a bigger mobile phone, where they have to record all the data, they feel a bit scared at the beginning, so that's where proper training becomes really important. So that and allowing some time for people to get acquainted with the systems is really important. So we cannot just say, yeah, we have it from day one, and now from day one, it must be 100%. It will not be 100%. We know that. People need to learn on how to use the system. So that means that we need to monitor as well, because we cannot take the risk as well of having information that is not reliable in the system. So that means that in the first stage, we need to allow for some learning. Yes, correct, but we need to check and to audit the data that was inputted, so that we make sure that we have the correct data in the system. But we need to allow for that. And so from the unions and from the officers, the response was very positive, even though with some I wouldn't call it fear, but some reserves on how all of this will change their life as well. So I would call it an anxiety, but at least they have some issues with that, because again, even though people use their mobile phone every day and they interact with digital, one thing is to do it on your own, and you are on your own time. It's your own. The other thing is you have to use it to do whatever you have to do. So, and you have to do it right. So it's a different thing. From the officers, that's been very positive feedback. We also got very positive from different groups that we've been working with. So the system allows, of course, the top level or the different hierarchical levels to see the information at different levels as well. So you can generate reports, you can generate dashboards that allow them on their daily work. And for that reason, they also see it very positive. But again, this is from the user of the data point of view to support decision making. It's not from the ones that are inputting the data, but the ones that are really consuming the data that is already there. from that perspective, they see it very valuable because now they can have real-time data and to support their decisions. So if I'm the Director General, I have an overview of everything that goes on in the prisons regarding security, regarding rehabilitation, and that helps me take decisions in a better way. Or if I'm the prison director, the same thing. Or if I'm the head of security, or if I'm an intelligence field officer. So what we've done is that we engage different user groups to support the development and testing of the solution, and so the feedback was really good. The only ones we haven't really used we consulted with, and because this is a system that is used by the professionals and not by the inmates, and this is important to say. So the inmate has access only to some functions to a different interface, like grievances, requests. This could be done through a kiosk or through a digital self-service solution, like the one that Belgium is implementing now in the prisons and so on. So for the inmates, I assume that during the different pilots, we will have also feedback about the types of grievances and requests that they may have, and that we may have not even think about. So we tried to include, and this is basically lists that we've been created based on the most common grievances, most common requests, and so on. But there might be others that we never thought about, and that they may be a concern to people that are incarcerated and that they want to see included there. So these are things that we still need to bring in. The same regarding visitors. What we have created in the system, it's the typical visiting processes. So you have the recording of the data of a visitor. You have the visiting times. You have the approval. You have all the upload of the legal documentation that is required, and all of that. But there might be requests from visitors that we may have to, of course, if the different jurisdictions will want to include them, we may have to do that. That's quite an easy thing to do still. But just to say that we try to during development, even during development, to bring as many groups as possible to discuss. But it's always it's an ongoing process, right? So there might be things that always need to be adjusted.
Yeah, I guess you leave room for that feedback later on in the
implementation. We lost sound, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Any other questions?
Okay, now you're back again.
Yes, technical problems are rife today. Thanks a lot, Pedro, for the presentation. Any questions from either Ida or Tamara?
Firstly, I think this is really a great platform, and obviously it's really necessary to have that kind of data tracking. I think what you were saying about the issues around implementation is the biggest barrier, isn't it, at the end of the day? So I think you're going to be facing those issues in most countries, where not only the sort of anxieties that you just mentioned with regards to Rhiannon's question, but also just simply the IT skills to some extent. And I think the mobile device is something that is really, really useful. So where I worked in our prison, we were testing mobile devices where we had our offender tracking system on it. And it was the most useful thing I've ever encountered in my 2 years there, because it meant that you were able to be on the landing. Most of the time the computers didn't work, or also you didn't want to sit behind a computer. That's not the nature of the job, is it? So I just think it's really a great idea to make sure it's mobile and sort of intuitive in a way that the officers can handle it. I know that you said it depended obviously on the parts that are put in, but who's going to sort of put in most of the information? Is it the offender managers, like all the background information, where the sentence planning, etc.? Like, who's going to do that?
Yeah, all the sentence planning that is done by the well, it depends again on the jurisdictions, right? Because different professionals in different jurisdictions can do different things, and in some jurisdictions this could be the case manager that, for instance, regarding case management, that will bring that data in. In some other jurisdictions, could be a properly trained correctional officer that could also bring that in, but that depends again on the profile of the professional that we have there. But for instance, everything that is related to I mean daily I mean for the intake process, for instance, when we look, for instance, at the pre-booking or collecting all the data about an individual. Let's imagine this is a new individual that already exists in the system. This is something that you do at the booking process, right? You need to take the photo of the individual, you need to collect the basic data of the individual and so on, and this is done by an officer. The same goes for the booking. So here we've split the process in two. So we have what we call a pre-booking, where we can even save a draft of the information, but we also call it pre-booking because when someone comes in, we need to get the basic information about the individual, right? And the basic may be different from one jurisdiction to the other. Yeah, but we may have, take photos, check some documentation, collect biometrics, and so on and so on. So we call that the pre-booking stage, but then we have a confirmation of the data, and we have that in a booking, what we call in a booking phase. So in that booking phase, we will have someone that really confirms most of the data and so on. Regarding, for instance, everything regarding to sentence and time and so on, this is mainly legal that or people with a juridical background that looks at this. So they will collect information about individual sentence, court documents, if the system is not integrated with courts, all court information, sentence calculation, and so on. Inputs for this, they will need to check all of these into that one, right? So they will need to go and see the sentences of these individuals. The same goes for but when it comes to security, for instance, this is mainly correctional officer's job, right? So classification depends very much. Normally, that's a classification committee. But access controls, dynamic security, incidents, let's say collection of data about certain incidents or the incident description, persons involved in those incidents, any seized objects or substances. Let's say we found a mobile phone. Okay, so all this kind of and this is from Pablo. Pablo is always the same guy. Okay, so adding pictures and stuff like that. So this is always done by or is typically done by an officer. So this is just to say that depending on the module, we may have different users. We may have some properly trained users that can do different things, and we know that in some countries the same the officers may also do or participate in risk and needs assessments, for instance, or even do some case management. But that's not the common situation in most jurisdictions. Okay, let's say if I want to run an assessment on an inmate, that's it often needs to be this is something that needs to be done by someone who was properly trained and not and that's not typically the case for every officer, right? So that's very much the case the case here as well.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pedro.
Yves, any comment?
No, yeah, it's a great system. It would be nice for us, but at the moment, there's something which is developed in Belgium with Unilink. So I think Kathleen told about that to you, but yeah, it would be great for us to have such a tool, because we have something at the moment which is not so much developed, and yeah, it's not enough to take care of our prisoners and of our staff. So yeah, it's a great system.
Yeah, very
But
comprehensive.
unfortunately, maybe too late for Belgium, but yeah, it's nice.
Brilliant. Listen, we've reached the top of the hour, just past. Is it time to wrap up?
Yeah,
I believe so.
yeah.
Thanks ever so much to everyone for this morning. It's really useful. Like I say, we'll get as much as we can of this online so that other people can share it, and hopefully encourage them to come to the next session.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. It was great to see you, Rhiannon, and Tamara. Nice to meet you. And Yves, see you one of these days. Hopefully. All the best for you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for the
Bye-bye.
insights.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.